Welcome back to part 9 of the anode filters recovery and refining series. This is the metal that we recovered in part 8. I'm going to set this off to the side, and I've got some waste solution back here. It's got a little bit of metal that's settled out of it. I'm just going to add this to my stock pot. It's not much, so get this out of the way. Got a clean beaker, and this is our filter cakes, 2 of them that we recovered from the silver solutions. Put these in a beaker. Now what I'll do is add some distilled water to this. And now what we'll do is set it up here on some heat. We're going to boil this material in some distilled water, just like we did with the DMG Precipitate, and see if we can get some of that silver pulled out of there. I figure pulling the silver out with some distilled water will help us later on when we go to process these metals. You see I added a little bit more distilled water, and then I gave it a stir to break it up a little bit. Okay, let's pull this down off the heat now and let this cool off. Got it cooled down. So now we're going to go ahead and filter this material. I've got one of my specially prepared filters here that rides up the inside walls of the funnel so we can capture 100% of our solids in here. You can see the filtrate has got a blue tint to it. That means we probably got some copper in there. And if we've got copper in there, it's a pretty safe bet to conclude that there's probably some silver in here too. I'm going to pull our vacuum line off. And this is our solids up here. I'm going to lift it up off the flask, collect a little bit of the liquid in this beaker. I tried to get a little bit of the filtrate in the beaker. It didn't work, so I just tipped the flask up and took a sample right out of the bottom of the flask. All right, here's our solution that I gathered up out of our flask. I'm putting hydrochloric acid in it. If there's silver in here, we should see a cloud of silver chloride form. Ah, look at that, man. We've got a ton of silver chloride. Lots of it. I got this piece of copper at a yard sale for $1. 359 grams of clean copper. Clean copper for refining is cheap and plentiful. I'm going to put this piece of copper, this beaker over here, and we're going to take our solution, this blue solution right here. It's going to have silver in it. We're going to pour it into this beaker and cement the silver out. onto that piece of copper. Set this back out of the way. We're going to put our funnel back on here with our solids in it. Got some hot distilled water here. I'm going to rinse the solids with a little bit more hot distilled water. The whole goal of this operation is to get as much of the silver out of here as we can before we start processing these solids to recover the precious metals that they contain. You can see this liquid has a much lighter shade of blue to it, and that means that we've been pulling some more of the copper out of these solids. That hot distilled water that should be enough for a sample. Let's go ahead and get a sample of that liquid that we just pulled off. I'm going to measure the amount of silver we've got in here now with some hydrochloric acid. See what we got. Well, we still got quite a bit of silver in there, so we better do some more hot water rinses. Here's our copper, and we've got some silver cementing out on this. In this beaker down here, what I'll do is I'll add this bit of sample water that we took in here because it's going to have some silver in it. This water is going to have a little bit of silver in it as well. So we'll pour this into our beaker here with our piece of copper. See if we can get all the silver out of that liquid and recover it. I'm going to keep rinsing over and over with hot distilled water, and the longer we spend rinsing this material free of silver, the easier the refining will be later on. Should do it. Just collecting enough in this little flask here. And this one here to get a sample. Let's see what we got here now. Hydrochloric acid. Let's see if we've got any silver in here. Looks like we still have a cloud of silver chloride forming in here. Here I decided to just go ahead and add this silver solution to my silver chloride jar so that I did not crowd the jar with the piece of copper in it. And what I'll do is I just set this aside, this jar of silver chloride, and when I have enough silver chloride in that jar, then I'll take and refine it into high purity silver with the lye and sugar method. I've rinsed this thing a whole bunch of times with hot distilled water. So now we're going to go ahead and draw a sample of water off of here into this flask. Just enough so that we can put some hydrochloric acid in there and check it for the presence of silver. That should be enough. Let's put some of this water in this clean beaker. And now let's do our hydrochloric acid test on this, see what we got. All right, that's looking much better. There's still some silver in there a little bit, but it's a lot better than when we started. Here's a look at the cement silver that we've gotten out of this rinsed water onto that piece of copper in the bottom of our beaker. It's not a whole lot, but it's better than letting the waste bucket have it. I'll capture this in a filter, rinse all the copper off of it, melt it into granules, and run it through the silver cell. I think I've got all the liquid pulled out of this filter that I'm going to get. There's our solids. And what we're going to do is take these solids, pretty neat looking, put them in this melt dish here. And we're going to get ready to burn this material now in an oven, heat it to redness, and then we can proceed from here. I've allowed this to sit overnight and dry out. So now what we're going to do is take this out and put this in the furnace, heat it to redness, and burn off all the combustible material. Let's see what we got in here now. Oh, it's got a ways to go yet, but it's burning okay. All right, let's see what we got in here now. There we go. That's what we want to see. That's perfect. I've allowed this to cool completely. So we're going to start processing it into a beaker through a fine mesh screen. First, I've got some palladium solutions that I had laying around in my shop. Been in here for ages, and I put it in this beaker that I intended to put into my stock pot. I added those dilute palladium solutions to this beaker. Now I'm going to try to cement out the palladium out of these solutions that I've added with some zinc. I think it's paying off here, getting all the silver out of here before we proceeded with the incineration. This ash looks very clean, and it's in a really, really fine powdery state. And so I'm just going to push it through this fine mesh strainer to see if I can find any solids in there. There shouldn't be any solids in here. I think we've got everything pretty much burnt up real well. And there should be some precious metals in this ash. And I think what we're going to do now is just go ahead, add some hydrochloric acid. I'm going to add a touch more until we got it up to about the 400 milliliter level in our beaker there. Cover this up. Pull our heat source down. Set it up on the heat source and apply some low heat. Now what I'll do is just start adding small doses of nitric acid and see if we can put some of this metal that we have in here. It'll be in a finely divided state, so this shouldn't take very long. I'm going to go ahead and do a baseline Stannis test to see what we got, if anything, in here after pouring in the hydrochloric acid. And as you can see by that stain, or lack of a stain rather, that there's nothing, no metals in solution, no precious metals. What we'll do is put the first dose of nitric in here. Add about 3 milliliters of nitric acid. Let's go ahead and put it on in there. And now what we'll do is let this react. I'm going to put it on time lapse. We'll continue to add small doses of nitric acid. See if we can get some precious metals put in solution with this aqua regia oil. I think we've got this reaction complete. Didn't take very long to kill the heat. What we'll do is pull this down off of the heat and let it cool down over here. I'm going to reach in here and get a little bit of the solution on a piece of filter paper. And let's do a Stannis test. Oh yeah, look at that dark stain. We got lots of precious metals in solution there. I've allowed this to cool completely and it's settled out. So now what we're going to do is go ahead and get a filter up here. And we're going to filter this gold bearing solution down into this flask. think we've pretty much got all the gold bearing solution down here in this flask. So what we'll do now is we're going to take the solids, put them back in this beaker, rinse this out with some hydrochloric acid. And now what we'll do is add some more hydrochloric acid to these solids in this beaker. Put a couple of shots of nitric acid in here. I think this is just pretty much going to be dirt, ash, not precious metals, not too much anyway. I'm going to cover this up now. Let me screw down the inside of this thing. Cover this up, add a little bit of heat. Go ahead and try a second extraction on this. Got this rolling boil going on in here. I'm going to kill the heat and let this cool down. I'm going to reach in here and get a status test on this. Just see if we've got anything, any precious metals in solution. That's going to be a little bit of residue, particulate solids on there. Let's see what we got here. A little bit. There's a little in there, but not much. Less than 1 gram per liter. Oh yeah, we got it nice and cool in there. There won't be much precious metals in this liquid because you get about 95% or more of the precious metals during the first aqua regia extraction. Got a nice stain there. Okay, we're going to use some stump out to precipitate out the pure gold. I really don't expect a lot of platinum group metals in here. So here we go. We're going to add a spoon of stump out and precipitate out some pure gold. I've used stump out in the past for solutions that contain some platinum group metals and gold, And I got good results, so that's why I tried to use it here. But obviously something ain't right. Give this a stir. Add another spoon of stump out. I'd expect some gold by now, but I did a stannous test and I still got a bunch of gold in solution, it looks like. Here I'm adding more stump out, stirring, and then adding some more stump out. Trying to get that gold to come out of the solution, and it's not cooperating, which is typical with this kind of material. Huh. Totally baffling. I have no clue what's going on here. None. I got some ferrous sulfate. I put a little of this in a cavity of a spot plate. I'm going to reach in here and get a little bit of solution and then put it on that cavity where the ferrous sulfate is. If we see a cloud of brown, that means we've got gold in solution. Let's get a little of this solution, a piece of filter paper, test it with stannous. That's a dark stain there, a lot different from this one. So apparently we still got some gold in this solution. I think we got a little bit of gold in there with that ferrous sulfate test. I'm going to add this filter paper with solids in it. All the metals have been precipitated or removed with acid, so we're just going to put it in this closed container. If you look down in the bottom of the beaker down here, that's going to be some gold mixed in with some other precipitate that I have no idea what it is. I'm just going to try to capture it in this filter and try to do the best we can with what we got here. I used water to seat the filter, and that's what now I've got a cloudy solution down here. All right, I'm running out of room in this flask. Gonna need the trade flask here. Have to pull this off without making a mess. Here's the junk that's down in the filter, or in the beaker there. Some kind of mud, some kind of precipitate. Just try to get that up here in our filter. My goodness, what a mess, man. What a mess. I can tell there's gold in there. Yeah, when I was younger, I loved a challenge like this. That's obviously gold there. But when you get older, this kind of stuff gets old too. Now I'm going to try to pour this cloudy solution that we filtered earlier through this filter. See if we can get this solution to clear up for us. All right, you can see there's some gold that's settled out in the filter flask over there on the left. You can see a pile of gold down in the bottom of that flask. I ran out of room in my filter flask. So now I've got to take it all apart. I'm going to set the funnel temporarily on the other flask. It's got a little bit of gold in it where we've got that funnel sitting. Now we're going to slowly and carefully transfer the clarified solution out of this filter flask into a clean beaker. There is a little bit of solids down on the bottom of the flask that I'm pouring off right now. So I'm going to stop when that starts to come down so I don't pour that off into our clean beaker. Now let's get this, get the beaker out of the way, and what we'll do is reassemble the filter flask, and then I'm going to continue to filter the solution that's in that flask with a little bit of gold down in the bottom of it. And as I pour this liquid in, you'll see there's a little bit of gold down in the bottom of the flask that I'm pouring off right now. I'm going to adjust the camera so you can look up in there and see it. It's not much, maybe 1/10 of a gram. But we're going to rinse that down into the filter cake that we've got that's got the other gold in it, along with that unknown precipitate from the operation where we tried to use SMB to drop the gold earlier. Got some ferrous sulfate, hot distilled water. That should have some gold in it and some other precipitate that I'm not familiar with. I'm going to add some hydrochloric acid to the ferrous sulfate. See if I can get it to green up. Not very much left in there now. Just going to dump the ferrous sulfate in here and try to get the gold to drop out of this solution. Here you can see the gold settling out down at the bottom of the beaker. I probably should have used ferrous sulfate to begin with to precipitate out the gold. I was trying to take a shortcut with SMB and it ended up biting me. Got a layer of gold down on the bottom down here. I'm going to reach in here and get a stannous test. That stannous test, just a slight color change, slight tint of orange, which indicates we may have just a touch of platinum in this solution. I've got the gold dropped out down here. This is not enough platinum to try to recover and refine. It's like a pretty decent amount of gold down in the bottom of this beaker. It's coating it pretty good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come back up to this funnel. And we're going to take this funnel here. This has got some gold in it. How much? I do not know. But it's got some other stuff in with it. So I'm going to put it in this beaker. I'm going to add some hydrochloric acid. Now what we'll do is I'm going to try to dissolve this gold in here one more time. I'm going to add a little bit of heat. And then we're going to, we'll start out with about 3 milliliters of nitric acid and try to put this gold back in solution. There's 6 milliliters. Get it done quickly. This is the gold I tried to precipitate with sodium metabisulfite earlier in the video, and it brought down this precipitate along with some of the gold. So I'm trying to redissolve everything here in this clip. Turn the heat off and let this cool down. Let's do a stannous test. Let's see what we got in here. Oh yeah, we definitely got a nice dark stain. Adding some distilled water to a beaker. Add some ferrous sulfate. We're going to precipitate out the gold with ferrous sulfate. I think I've got this dissolve. I'm going to turn the heat off. I'm going to add some hydrochloric acid to it. See if we can turn this green. I've got to rearrange some of this stuff. This is our copperas precipitated gold in this beaker here. This is some platinum group metals that we've precipitated out down here. Let's move this back out of the way a little ways. Pull this up here. Got to filter the ferrous sulfate because sometimes it contains little chunks of iron. I added some ice to the gold solution to chill it out, and I set up another filter flask so I could filter both solutions at once. I should have enough of this pulled through. Get this out of the way and make some room. Nice purple color in the filter. Let's get a status test. Oh yeah, we got a nice dark stain, which indicates we've got some gold in solution. Got our ferrous sulfate in this jar. I'm gonna add it right to the gold solution. The gold solution is a little cloudy. That's okay. We're gonna go ahead and precipitate the gold out with this ferrous sulfate. Here we go. Let's get in here and get a status test. Make sure we've got all this gold precipitated. And there you can see we don't have any indication of precious metals. This is my gold refining stock pot, and I keep copper in here. And what happens in here, see that mud down on the bottom? Any traces of precious metals in my waste solutions will cement out onto these pieces of copper in my stock pot. And since we have traces of platinum group metals in our two gold solutions here, I'm going to add them directly into the stock pot. Not a whole lot of metal down in there. This is the platinum group metals that I was cementing out on zinc. Sure, I got plenty of copper in here. We'll set this outside under a rain cover and let that react. If you remember part 8, this is the little bit of mixed black platinum group metals that we've got in this beaker. Not enough to try to do a full refining on this. And I've got this material in here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this little bit of black material here in with this one. All right, start a collection of platinum group metals like this and then do a full refining. This is not enough. This is only about 2 or 3 grams of platinum group metals. Not enough to do a full refining. So I'm just gonna set this up and get it out of the way. Just wipe this beaker out with a filter paper and get any of this metal that's collected on the inside of this thing onto a filter paper. And then we'll put this in our paper storage. And now, that's our paper. We get a beaker back. Pull these beakers up. There's just a slight dusting of gold on this one. And that was from our first precipitation with ferrous sulfate. This one's got a little bit to it, but not a whole lot. This one here doesn't have enough metal in it to even be concerned about. I'm gonna hit this one with a little hydrochloric acid. Hardly any metal in there at all. Hydrochloric acid. And we'll do the same with this one. This has got a little bit more in it, but not much. Nothing. This beaker just had suspension in it. Nothing in there. So now we get this beaker back. I'll add this to the stock pot. It's next to nothing. This is going to be our haul of gold from the anode filters. This is hydrochloric acid. And I'm going to try to boil this little bit of gold in some hydrochloric acid. Notice how the gold changes color as it boils in the hydrochloric acid. Now what we'll do is rinse the gold over and over with some hot distilled water. gonna sop this little bit of water here with a piece of paper towel. All right, let's go ahead and get this dried out. It's an unusual shape I've got going on in there. Got this dried off, and I like to dry the gold off before I melt it. It seems to make a nicer melt when I have dry gold like this. Let's go put this in a crucible and melt it up. I'm going to try to pour this into a little bar in my mold down here. I'm going to start heating that mold up right now. These are the final products from the Anode Filters Recovering Refining Series. This is the gold that we just poured into a little bar here. It's got a skin on it. And looks like we've got 5.8 grams of pure gold. Here is our platinum group metals. And I'm just going to say this, there's probably, maybe 5 or 6 grams of platinum group metals in here, but it's not enough to do a complete refining. So I'll just hang on to this, and we'll add to it maybe when we do the stock pot, and then we'll have enough to do a complete refining. Need about 15 grams of material in order to do a complete refining to make it worthwhile. This is the material that we filtered out of our last silver nitrate solution. I'm just going to add this into the paper storage. There's not enough there to try to go after the amount of metal that small amount of metal that thing contains. And then, of course, these are our mystery precipitates. I'm just going to hang on to these. We're going to put both of these in our paper storage. and process these when we do the paper filters. Okay, this will complete the 9-part series of the Silver Cell Anode Filters Recovery and Refining series of videos. Thank you for watching.